Are you ready?
I was born ready.
Hello. Welcome on in, everybody, to episode 14 of the Stock Guy AL3X Show, the podcast that covers topics around the world, business, news, markets, money, sports. If people are talking about it, then so are we. The Stock Guy AL3X Show can be watched, listened, and viewed on YouTube and Spotify. Soon, everywhere else podcasts are downloaded. Guys, follow the show everywhere. Twitter, Insta, LinkedIn, all the social platforms. Stocky, what's up, dude?
Bro, this new camera angle makes you look so much smaller.
Guys, there's the camera angle that you're seeing right here, and then an additional, I got a camera set up right here so that way Stocky.
Because normally you're on the other side and it's like down on you, so you just like, I see your big mug in the way, and like you look so like you look like someone's little brother right now. I'm sorry, I just noticed it.
I am someone's little brother.
But I mean like kid brother, like big like little. I mean I'm not trying to be a dick. I just noticed it right there. Nice keyboard you have though. Does it work?
God, yeah, it works. You see,
Go to hell. I see you got two of them.
I got
actually.
one here that goes to this PC, and then I got one here that goes to the PC that captures everything.
I didn't understand what you said today when you said, do you stream on two PCs? Like, I thought you were trying to say like two monitors, because I was like, I'm a boomer and I didn't grow up in technology. I'm thinking to myself, why and how would you have two different computers running a single stream? And I'm like, I didn't even know it was a thing.
Man. That's how it works. So I asked, again, a little bit more context, guys. I was hanging out with Stocky during his stream today. This is February 16th, Wednesday, February 16th. I was hanging out with Stocky, and I asked Stocky, hey, do you stream with two PCs? Or do you have a two PC setup? And he goes, yeah, I got two screens.
Well, I thought you were saying that because, fun fact, and a lot of people didn't realize this, the first year of my stream, I streamed on one monitor. I had one monitor at stock trading, which is like, in stock trading world is like unheard of. And so I finally got a second monitor. And so I was like, yeah, I was like so proud. I was like, yeah, I got two. And then everybody started laughing at me. And then my key has been stuck all day, but it is what it is. We'll move on from it. And
listen, I take it as a compliment. You said I look like someone's little brother. I take that as a compliment. That means I could pass for a very, very young person. So
no. You look like an older person who's old, battling with chemo right now. But I'm just saying,
sickly.
like you
said, I look sickly.
Yeah, and the hairline's disappearing.
It is disappearing.
Speaking of sickly and concerning, last night I was up super late. I haven't been sleeping. We talked about that before stream, and I heard a noise outside. And I opened my window here, and I see a pickup truck, and I see a little flashlight, and I'm like, "There's someone breaking into my car." And so I get up to go out, and between here and the door, I was like, no, they're not breaking in my car. I mean, have you seen my car? It's a fucking 15-year-old Corolla. I'm like, if anything, I should stop, because if they're breaking into my car, they're probably leaving something, like just out of pity. And then as I come out, I noticed the back of the truck is full of stuff. And it clicked. I was like, I tell people all the time, if you want a side hustle, one of the perfect side hustles to do is every second Wednesday or first and third Wednesday of every month is bulk trash pickup, right? And people put out stuff that's actually good. They just don't want to deal with it. And so I was like, you can go around, pick this stuff up, and have a yard sale every other weekend for free, right? You just make money doing that. And I realized that's what these guys were doing.
Is bulk trash pickup just taking people's trash?
Yeah, they just go around to everybody's house at midnight and have their pickup truck and go through their bulk stuff, throw out, and they find dressers and kids' toys and good stuff that people just don't want to have anymore, that they just want to get rid of, but they're not going to like go to the dumpsters themselves. They just put it out twice a month. And so I was like, I respect it. I was like, hey, I've talked about that on my stream. It's a great side hustle. And then I was like, okay, let me just kind of act like I was going out naturally, and I turned on the hose to like water my grass. And then this motherfucker picks up my trash bags, my black trash bags, which it doesn't matter if you know what's in there or not, but I've done a lot of landscaping over the past couple weeks, and some of those bags are full of like leaves, sticks, and rocks. He rips open the thing. All the gravel, rocks, and sticks fall out. He sees me, jumps in his truck, and takes off. And
what an asshole.
I sat there with this limp hose in my hand, just sputtering out water, going, God fucking damn it. I have to go pick this shit up, because how am I going to explain to the HOA when I get another fine? Because I need to have an HOA fine counter on my stream. When I get another HOA fine for this, that some group of Haitian guys spilled this out and it's not my fault. Like, I had to go out now in the middle of the night and do that. So no good deed goes undone. And that's a little story that I felt the need to share for some reason. That was last night.
It was last night?
Yeah, because today's the second or the third Wednesday.
Yeah. Damn, dude, what an asshole, man.
Which I couldn't get the fine because I already got shit on by the HOA because I thought last Wednesday was the first Wednesday, and I put all that stuff out there and found out it was actually the second Wednesday. Huh?
Did you guys make eye contact? The guy that ripped open your garbage?
I don't know. It was dark out, so I don't really know.
Did he see you? It was one of those moments where
he saw me when I turned the hose on.
So he saw you and he ripped open your trash and he looked at you and basically.
Well, he was already ripping it open and it spilled out and like he didn't care, like he didn't give a shit. And then he saw me and then he ran.
Damn, what an asshole, bro. And here you are. You're like a champion for what he's doing. You're saying like, yeah, you know, good for these guys.
I was thinking like I was gonna go and be like, hey man, there's this stuff in my backyard that I've been on the fence about getting rid of. You know what? Here, take it. You know what I mean? Like I don't want it. I'm not using it. You know, I'm not a hoarder. You know, go make money with it. But no, fuck that guy. And so now when not the next weekend, but the Wednesday after, I got a little something for him.
What's the something?
I'm not saying it because I'm not. It's plausible deniability there, Alex.
Well, I mean, you know, I don't think anyone. I don't think he's going to hear this.
Maybe I could just go around and find everybody's leftover Super Bowl wings that they didn't eat. That's all rotted, and leave that for him.
Speaking of the Super Bowl, did you like that game? You watched the whole thing?
I did, and I didn't like the game. I thought it was exciting. The outcome was really weird. I didn't like part of the outcome because it affects my stocks, especially with DraftKings and others. But I got to be honest with you. I hate Jalen Ramsey because of the Jaguar thing with it, even though I understand why he wasn't happy there, but the way he went about it made me just despise the guy. He's the only former Jaguar that I can't fucking stand. But that no call on him changed the entire game, and that kind of pissed me off because it was such a big blatant no call that it like no matter what the outcome of the game was, it was going to be in question, especially if the Bengals won because of that one play. And I don't like that. The same thing is with Odell Beckham Jr. going down. Like if the Rams lost, everybody's going to say because Odell Beckham Jr. went down. And if the Bengals won, it's because of that no call. So and then I know your feelings about the flags coming out at the end there.
It was blatantly obvious. It's blatantly obvious what just happened. About 2 months ago, Stan Kroenke comes out and says, all right, I'm going to settle with the city of St. Louis, and I'll pay all your guys' legal fees. $790 million is what I'm going to give to the city of St. Louis, and then however many more tens of millions he has to pay for legal fees on behalf of the other 31 owners. He says, I'll do that, Mr. Goodell and the other 31. You just give me that Super Bowl. Guarantee my victory so I can get some momentum and some inertia in the city of LA.
That was the case, and they definitely would have called the penalty that was against Jalen Ramsey.
You want tinfoil hat? You want conspiracy? That was 100% a gift-wrapped Super Bowl for Stan Kroenke and the Rams. They're not doing well.
Then tell me how the most blatant penalty of the entire game was not called against the Bengals.
There was like 3 or 4 penalty flags leading up until that last drive.
No, that was a ripped offensive face mask that threw him down. And not only did that happen, but the receiver caught the ball and ran for a 75-yard touchdown. There is no more blatant than that.
They do this thing where they let 3.5 quarters play out, make it look like it's a kosher experience. Then final drive.
That was an easy call.
Like
that right there would have kept the game out of reach.
4 or 5 flags that did not need to be thrown. That was it was in LA. It was the Rams loading up with Matt Stafford and Von Miller and OBJ and Jalen Ramsey and all the stars they've been bringing to town. It was Stan Kroenke's way of saying, listen, I'll pay your legal fees. You give me that Super Bowl, guarantee my victory. Because, man, he needs momentum and inertia in that city. I was just in LA a few weeks ago.
Team is about to implode because they have given up every goddamn first-round draft pick they have until 21-21 for all the people they have. Like, they gave up 2 for Ramsey. They gave up they don't have any team. Once these guys leave or demand more money, they're going to have to let go of all of them.
You think Kroenke actually cares about long-term success?
I'm going to make something, and this right here is going to test how hardcore people are and sports fans. The 21-22 Rams are just the equivalent of the 1997 Florida Marlins. I said it.
I was 7 years old. I don't know if I remember the Florida. I know they won the World Series in the 90s.
They bought that World Series. They spent 2 years bringing in every top talent, giving up every single draft pick, everything they had, overdid their leverage on their salary cap to win a Super Bowl, and then they just ripped the team apart.
But here's the thing about sports. If you're in a major market like LA or New York, you don't need to be great forever. The Knicks are like the one of the most valuable franchises in all of sports. And if you're just looking at the NBA, the Knicks are like a top 3, top 4 franchise as far as valuation goes. They're historically awful. They win nothing.
Just because of the market they're in.
That's what I'm talking about. So if you look at LA, the West Coast, all Kroenke needs is to get that brand loyalty. All he needs is a little bit momentum to really capture the market, because as it currently stands, there are more.
Los Angeles doesn't care about football. I'm sorry, it doesn't happen. Let me give you a little thing. We got to get into this podcast, but let me give you a little fun fact that you probably had no idea. Did you know what the #1 selling franchise merchandise in NFL was in the 90s and early 2000s?
#1 selling
the #1
piece of
merchandise
in all of
football team.
in all of football.
NFL, yeah, during the 90s and early 2000s.
I mean, obviously, logic tells you it's the Dallas Cowboys.
Nope.
But I mean, you're going to tell me it's what, the New York Football Giants?
Nope. The Oakland Raiders.
The Oakland Raiders?
Because in California, especially when it came to gangbanging and the cholos and everything like that, their shit became a staple for gangs and for like cred and everything. It was crazy. For not every year, the Cowboys did during their Super Bowl runs, but for a while there, the Oakland Raiders had the best selling merchandise, even though they were like a bottom feeder team. It was insane.
Well,
not only that,
the Raiders
because
have
they represented like the bad boys and the fucking all that shit.
The Raiders have one of the coolest brands. Like, as far as
now they're in Las Vegas. Who the fuck is in why Las Vegas? Whatever. But you know what? It doesn't matter where the Super Bowl is. If you are unlike me and you have friends and you have them for a long period of time, you could be like the gentleman in our first story today, which is we're going to start with a heavy show. We're going to start with something heartwarming. It's actually kind of sad ending. Well, not sad, but it's a heartwarming story. Alex, lead us into it.
Well, it relates to the Super Bowl. That's why we spent so much time talking about the Super Bowl. Guys, according to this article on apnews.com, friends who have attended every Super Bowl plan their final trip. I mean, I didn't think this was real, but apparently it is. Here's a picture of the 3 friends. You guys can see this. Stocky, I'm sure you could probably see that if I angle the camera.
I'm the one who gave you the article.
Yeah,
so
you got it. You got it. Guys, here's a picture of the 3 guys. According to the article up in Portland, Maine, it says 3 friends who have attended every Super Bowl are hoping for a memorable contest this year because it will probably be their final trip to the big game as a group. The 3 men are all in their 80s and have attended every game since the first AFL-NFL World Championship game was held 55 years ago, about 7 miles from this year's venue, SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California. They're meeting at the game once again this year, but future meetings are in question. Don Chrisman, 80, he's the eldest at 85, said this is his last game. Gregory Eaton, age 82 of Michigan, wants to keep attending, but said his health concerns could get in the way. And then Tom Henschel, a football fanatic who spends the cold months in Florida, said Super Bowl 55 in 2026 figures to be his last. In 2020, in 55, no, I'm reading that wrong. LX, what is LX? That's 60, right? Super Bowl 60?
Yeah, L is 50, and then afterwards is adding 10, so 60, yeah.
Yeah, he said Super Bowl 60 in 2026 figures to be his last. The far-flung friends used the Super Bowl to meet up, spend time together and reminisce, but in recent years they've come to grips with the fact it must come to an end one day. Dude, what a run. He said, I think I still think I have a few years left. I'm going to try to make it to 60, but old man age is catching up to all of us. What a run, man. Look at these guys.
I mean, I want to think about it, but it's you know what the crazy thing about it is? It's not that you've been friends that long and that you can afford to go to Super Bowls. I mean, their first tickets were probably like $3,
so
like 30
bro.
grand. But you know what's crazy about it is think of what you've seen in that time frame. Think of how you've seen the world change. When was their first one? What year was it?
66 was the first Super Bowl.
66. So 1966. You're just now. You're not even in the Vietnam War yet. You've got civil rights going on. You're 3 years from Kennedy being assassinated, and we just put men on the moon. Right? There's no cell phones. There's black and white TV, and that's your life. There's still smoking sections on planes. Right? Like that's your life. And then fast forward. Now you've gone through Vietnam and you've watched that. Maybe they served in Vietnam. Or maybe I guess not. I mean, wait. How did they all go to the ones during Vietnam? Are they them boys draft dodgers there? Okay. So then you go through Vietnam. Now you go through the 80s, you go through recessions, you go through the rock and roll, you go through the Iranian crisis, you go through, you go through the recession, you go through Reagan. Now you're going through the Gulf War, you're going through the 90s and the explosion of the internet. Now you're seeing color TV and you're seeing cell phones and now your computer. I mean, and you've been going. I mean, that's what I think. I mean, the stories that those guys have to be thinking is like every time you meet up at the Super Bowl, you talk about your year in review, and you've done that every year since 1966. I just think that is what it is. And I always think when I see people like this, you know, I think to myself, you know, when you drive, the next time you're by a hotel, or because I used to live next to one and look and see everybody and think of their stories, or you see an apartment building or a subdivision, every single one of those dwellings is a whole nother story, right? A whole nother person's life and experiences and things. And that's just how the world is. It's just a conglomerate of billions of individual life stories. And these guys get to reminisce, and they've been doing this together, and football is what's kept them together. And it reminds me of what I always say. For two men to be lifelong friends, all they need is one thing in common. One common, you know, whatever it is, whether it's football, whether it's fishing, whether it's poker, it doesn't matter. Two men can be lifelong friends as long as they have one common hobby together. And for two women to be lifelong friends, all they need is one common person that they hate together. That's it.
Also true.
It is. You get two women, they both hate Becky, they're lifelong friends. That's all two women need is to hate the same person, and they're lifelong friends. It's insane.
Eaton says, we just love football. He also said that he shelled out about $2,500 for his ticket this year, which is about 400 times more than the cheap seats in 67. I guess it would have been the 66 season, 67 year calendar year.
Wait, how did he get $2,500 tickets to this year's Super Bowl?
I have no idea. It just says that's how much he spent. So
that's insane, because like I saw them online, they were like 15,000.
Bro, I don't know. They probably got the absolute.
Maybe he just buys them in advance.
Yeah, who knows how he got it? All I know is that this is actually a really cool thing. This story doesn't actually say, you know, there's a missed opportunity here. They could have like asked some stories about, you know, what was the craziest year? You know, what game was your favorite? You know, who got the like when were you the drunkest? Like where's some of the like the meat and potatoes? These guys who have been to have 55 Super Bowls, where's any of that? They just...
Because the person who did this story was the guy who is on the shit list at the news place, and nobody actually cared about this feel-good story because everything else is going on. It's like, hey man, we got a story for you. Oh, am I covering Russia, Ukraine? No. Am I covering the China? No. Are you covering the? No. But we need to get some sports feel-good stories. So can you go check out with these three guys? And that guy was like, fuck, fine. How long have you guys been doing this? Oh, great. How you did it? Okay, that's cool. Like, you're right. This was a great thing. I think we should invite these guys on the podcast.
Yeah, you see, maybe it's just because I love football so much, and this is how I have so many friends that I still have, you know, to this day, just because we'll like text about football, or like I'm in a fantasy football league, you know, with someone, you know, a couple friends that I, you know, had in high school that we just happen to still be in this fantasy football league, and it's just going forever. We have nothing in common anymore except for this one little like interest. And like, you know, I see him maybe once, twice a year. But when I see him, it's just like no time has passed. And it's really easy for guys to be friends like that.
Can I make a confession to you?
Go for it.
I've never once played fantasy football.
You think you'd like it?
I do, but every year I get invited and my life just goes crazy. I just don't pay attention. And then I think to myself, I'm one of those people who have like anxiety with my ADHD. Like I'm like, I'll sit there and be like, yeah, I want to do it, but then I got to do research and I got to do this and I got to pay attention, but I could be doing this. And so like, I automatically do that. And I get invited by people every year to do it. I think I'm going to have to do it. It's just for me, it's like, fun, man. I don't know.
Fantasy football.
I think it's because I'm a Jaguars fan, and by week 3, I just don't even want to think about football anymore because I'm done. You know what I mean? Like I don't care about anybody else.
But that's like the fun part about fantasy football is that like you end up watching. Do you ever watch Red Zone? Like NFL Red Zone, the broadcast on Sundays? Like it's on.
No, I hack crack streams every time.
So well, I mean, you could hack a Red Zone broadcast. It's 7 hours of every single game that gets obviously like into the red zone, and it's so addicting because if you play fantasy football, you're like rooting for certain players to score or rooting for players not to score because you're playing against people, you know.
Wait, that's what NFL red zone is? It's just them every time somebody's in the red zone?
Yeah, and there's no commercials. It's 7 hours.
Oh wow, you learned something new. I didn't know that.
It's incredible. You go, yeah, you being a little bit of an asshole there. that a little bit of, a little bit of being an asshole? Or are you
No,
being
I was I was legit saying that was something I didn't know. Like I literally learned something, and then I blacked out because I remember that Maurice Jones-Drew had a year where he carried every single fantasy football. Like it was like 2006 or something like that. Like and I was a Jags fan, so I remember that. We're still back on football. We're on football right now. We're talking about offenses and defenses and stalemates and red zones, and we're not talking about the greatest goal line red zone potential stand happening in the world right now. And we need to get to it, Alex.
Do you want to get to that first, or should we talk about this incredible story on rawstory.com before we get to the incredible stalemate that's going on over in the Eastern Bloc? Let's discuss, Stocky, on rawstory.com. The headline reads, an Ohio mayor prompts stunned laughter by saying ice fishing leads to prostitution. So all y'all out there that love to fish, especially, around frozen lakes, get ready, because this Ohio mayor is he's on to you. He's on.
When I first heard the headline, I thought he was talking about like having sex with the fish you caught.
Oh,
now in my case, I'd need a largemouth bass. Some people would need a smallmouth bass, but regardless, that's what I thought the headline was, and then I had to watch the video.
So here's the video. I'm gonna play this video right here.
Hilarious. Go for it.
Yeah, let's just hear this mayor. I mean, I could read it, guys, but let's hear what this guy has to say.
Ohio Mayor Craig Schubert prompted stunned silence after telling a council work session Tuesday evening that ice fishing could lead to prostitution. Take a look.
Additionally, if you open this up to ice fishing, while on the surface it sounds good, then what happens next year? Does someone come back and say, I want an ice shanty on Hudson Springs Park for X amount of time? And if you then allow ice fishing with shanties, then that leads to another problem. Prostitution. And now you got the police chief and the police department involved. Just data points to consider.
Okay. So I'm not in favor of changes.
It's funny, I can't see or hear it, so I'm just
exactly
faking my
clear.
reactions, but I know what the video is.
Yeah, so he just says, okay, so guys, there it is. I mean, that's the Ohio mayor. That's his opinions. He didn't even really do a lot of leaps to get there. He just got there. Like, he didn't even
He didn't have to. He's like, listen, you allow them fish, then they're gonna want shanties. You let them have them shanties, you know what that's gonna lead to? Fornication, prostitution. I'm thinking to myself, what fucking prostitute is down that bad that she's gonna go walk out on the ice to your little ice hut that's fucking negative 90 degrees and bend over and take, like, that's not how prostitution works.
Apparently, says another guy goes on to say, that's why I'm not in favor of shanties. Oh, bro, like, he didn't even try to make some sort of logical web, like intricate, sort of rationale. There was no mental gymnastics. It was just...
And this is why Cincinnati was not allowed to win the Super Bowl, because it's Ohio. This is why the LeBron Cleveland thing was a fluke. Other than that, this is Ohio. This is why you can't have nice things. It started with the balloon disaster in the 80s. Okay, that was your downfall. That was your Napoleon starting the cracks in the English Empire. You are not allowed to have nice things. Once the balloon thing happened, it was over.
So anyway, guys, if you happen to live in the town with this guy, I guess I feel for you. It's Hudson Mayor Craig Schubert. So if anyone that lives in Hudson, Ohio,
oh my God, I have the best idea ever. Listen, if you live in Hudson, Ohio, and there's like a little lake or pond near his house or the city hall, do me a favor. When it freezes over, I want you to go put up a little shanty on that lake, and then get your girlfriend or your wife to dress like real trashy, and then when he comes out, just like have her come out like stumbling out, and just let him know. Just that would be the best thing ever. Don't get arrested, but that sounds like it would be an amazing moment in my life to see that.
This isn't a story we should spend any more time on, because there's so much else going on in the world.
Well, listen,
However,
this leads us into our next story, talking about frozen ground and what that leads to. Some people think frozen ponds leads to fornication for money, and some people think frozen grounds leads to invasions. I'm saying you can make these connections.
So guys, the world's going crazy right now with Russia and Ukraine. We're not breaking any news to you. You know exactly what's going on. However, at this moment of recording, According to this article on CNN.com, it says the Ukraine crisis, no sign of Russian de-escalation, according to the NATO chief. So as of this moment, guys, we're recording on February 16th. It's in the evening, 7 o'clock Eastern. It says there's no sign that Russian forces are de-escalating near Ukraine. NATO's Secretary General says, despite claims from Moscow that it is pulling some troops back from the border, Jens Stoltenberg said Russia still had a huge... Are you looking for the trash can guy? Looking for the...
No, my dog's barking, and I don't know why.
So Jens Stoltenberg has said Russia still had a huge force ready to attack Ukraine. He warned that the threat from Russia had become a new normal, adding that the defensive alliance was considering strengthening its eastern flank. Russia later denied Mr. Stoltenberg's assessment of the situation. A Kremlin spokesperson reiterated that some troops were being withdrawn following the completion of military drills, which was really ambiguous when they said that. When yesterday, we were hearing that they said, we're nearing like the end of our military exercises. I had no idea if that meant like the exercises were going to be done, they were going to go back, or the exercises were going to be done, and that meant let's go. Like, we're done practicing. Let's get into let's get into it. I don't know what's going on over there, guys. I think everybody's just kind of playing this thing day by day. Speaking at a summit of NATO defense ministers in Brussels, Mr. Stoltenberg said the alliance was considering setting up new battle groups, the smallest type of self-sufficient military units in Central.
This is the biggest fucking smoke and mirrors show ever. Nobody's invading anybody. I have a tinfoil hat, and it's two things. Number one, Russia's doing this because everyone forgets that Crimea happened, right? Like Crimea, even though it's mostly Russian people, they were still technically part of Ukraine, right? And Russia just kind of like went in during the Obama administration, just kind of like took them, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, this is against the thing." And then people were like, "But they're Russians, and they want to be part of Russia, and Russia's just taking back their people and whatever." But the world condemned it, and now Russia's like kind of knocking on the door with Kiev and the Ukraine, and now everybody's worried about them actually going into mainland Ukraine, and it's become such a big deal that everybody's kind of like forgotten about Crimea and kind of accepted now that Crimea is part of Russia, and it feels like Russia's doing this, and they're playing like this. I was kidding with you. I bring troops back now. Oh, maybe we invade. No, maybe we don't. I just became a Saudi Arabian Russian for some reason.
You did.
But yeah. So like it's like a back and forth thing. And now the president of Ukraine is like, hey, maybe we don't want to join NATO after all. Like this is all going on, and it feels like I said in a different podcast, it feels like the world belligerents do this every time we have Democrats in office, not to be political, but it just tends to happen. I mean, Russia invaded and took Crimea when Obama was in office, and then when Clinton was in office, we had the whole 9 year with Kosovo and the Balkans. Like it just feels like that, and Biden doesn't exude confidence and doesn't exude strength.
Confidence. He came out and said, we were not.
I'm not trying to get into politics, and you know what the number one thing is. Well, I'd rather have that than have what we had in office before. I get that. I'm not trying to say he's a bad guy or bad president. I'm just saying from a global strength, he doesn't exude that. So you see those belligerents start to come out. So now you've got Russia back and forth, and the thing that pisses me off about the headline is Russia does not have their troops on their border to the Ukraine border. They're actually in Belarus right now, so it's a different thing. And they keep saying, oh, we're just doing drills. I don't know what you guys are freaking out about. We're just doing drills. We're coming back now. Oh, actually, we're still going. Oh, no, we're not. Then you have this whole thing where the Ukrainian president says, oh, we got intelligence that they're going to come and invade on the 16th. And then after the world freaks out about that, they're like, we killed. We don't know. We just killed. And then so like we've got this going on. And now the United States is pushing this. They're not actually pushing stopping them or doing anything like that, because here, tinfoil hat without the tinfoil hat, Germany and all the other EU, you notice how quiet they are? Have you noticed how the EU is real quiet right now?
Yeah, they're not really saying anything. The people that are being
Why?
loudest
Because
are the American
they are
media.
having an energy crisis, and the Russia provides like 60 to 80% of their oil and natural gas. So they're being real quiet because they don't want to get involved with this. They're kind of like, hey, whatever happens. But the United States is getting involved. And why are they doing it? One of two reasons. And I think the main reason is that Biden's popularity has dropped to like almost single digits. Kamala Harris is actually the lowest approval rating of a vice president in recorded history, and Biden's approval rating is down like in like the 20s and 30s, depending on even his own party. Because here's the thing: his own party doesn't want him there because they didn't get student loan forgiveness, they didn't get taxing of the rich, they didn't get weed legalization. Now they're talking about flipping the script and actually, instead of raising taxes on people, actually cutting taxes and getting rid of the gas tax, whatever, because inflation's going so much. So like everything they said they were going to do or try to do, they're not doing. So there's no approval. But how did Bush get reelected in 2004? 9/11 and a war, right? Wars bring re-election. So I think that by showing strength and a way to be able to go to your constituents and say, see, I stopped a world war because we sounded tough, it helps with that. And they know the midterms are coming up and they're going to get destroyed. You're going to get destroyed. The Democrats are going to get destroyed in the midterm. It's just going to happen. You know, it usually happens with a party that takes over completely. They lose that one of the two in the midterms, but this midterm is bad. We actually had, today was announced the 30th Democratic congressperson to announce their retirement. They're just getting out. They don't even want to lose.
So the Georgia, I mean, we don't dive so deep into politics. I mean, we'll cover it from a news perspective, obviously, but not so much our political opinions. The thing about the George Bush 2004 election, though, was and I think you could still hear me because I think you still have your headphones on. For those that aren't watching, Stock, you just got up. Oh yeah. So. The thing about Bush, man, was that was an attack on American soil, right? I mean, so that really obviously galvanized a lot.
Was it an attack or was it an inside job?
You did not come with your tinfoil hat.
Bro, I'm going to be honest with you. I have evolved, grown, and regressed in so many ways in my life. There was a time, and I'm not still fully convinced that the United States government didn't have at least knowledge or there were some things that were exacerbated for political reasons. But there was a time when I legitimately thought the U.S. government was like significantly involved with that. It really caught on to me. But you know, it is what it is. I'm not saying 9/11 was an inside job. I'm not saying that steel can't, jet fuel can't melt steel bills. I'm not talking about World Trade Center 7. I'm not talking about the fact that the 64 cameras outside the Pentagon didn't catch a plane or any parts of a plane, including Rolls-Royce engines, didn't show up anywhere in the Pentagon. It looked like it was a missile. I'm not gonna get into all that. I'm just saying. Let's be careful
with the
what we
aside,
say.
With the tangent aside, the Bush thing is obviously relevant. However, I feel like there's a lot of Americans that feel like we have no business being in a war, sending troops, sending American lives to go fight for the Ukrainian border. I feel like there's a lot of Americans.
Well, the Afghanistan thing was a complete disaster. They have to make up for it in some way.
Well, and here we are. We're living with the generation in the wake of that just says, why the hell are we getting involved in this stuff? I mean, again, this is just a lot of stuff I read. A lot of people believe that we're not the world police. I feel like
the boomers are dying off, and they're the ones that were fed that propaganda through a lot of time, and they didn't have the information we have now. So think about it. The generation now, the reason that we still care about it, the reason weed doesn't get legalized and all this other stuff is because, listen, I hate to tell you, if you're like under 40 right now, this may offend you, or maybe you just accept that it's true. The reason that things that elected officials on both sides say they're going to do when they get elected but don't do is because they cater to the old people, because the difference between old people and you is old people vote. You show up once every 4 years maybe, and you vote maybe every 8 years. They vote in every election, every primary, and they're the ones they care about. So that's why the U.S. government and the Democratic Party is not going to legalize or decriminalize weed at the federal level, even though they said they were going to, because the people who actually vote for them still believe it's the devil's lettuce. That's how it works. If you don't vote, it's the same reason why homeless people never get helped. It's because homeless people don't pay taxes and don't vote, and so nobody ever helps them out. That is hard truth for you. So yes, the new generation is very much more in tune, and they're not brainwashed like older generations where they only had the mainstream media owned by 7 companies and fed them what they were told to believe. We have alternate things, but we still don't vote, so it's still going to be a while till we change.
All the while, this whole Ukrainian Russian conflict that's going on at the border, which I know you said there wasn't a lot of troops at the Ukrainian border. I think that last there was reported there was 100,000 there and then 30,000 in Belarus. But whatever. I mean, at this point, we're taking it day by day.
I said the Russian border.
The Russian-Ukrainian border?
No, Russia and Ukraine don't. That's not how it works. But yeah, keep going.
So anyway, despite all of that conflict, we're taking it day by day right now. Just learning stuff as it comes. Stocky's been saying now for a few days he thinks it's just a smoke and mirror show. If it is a smoke and mirror show, perhaps it's just to disguise and distract from what's going on just north of us here in America for all this nonsense that's happening with Justin Trudeau. Guys, Canadian government, according to this article on NPR and according to everything that's going on up in Canada, if you're also keeping track of this story, the Canadian government is invoking its Emergencies Act to try to quell COVID protests. Guys, this story is actually pretty unbelievable. This might be a little bit more pressing this week, given that we're not getting any action over in Russia and Ukraine. It says Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced Monday that he is invoking the Emergencies Act, which gives the Canadian government the authority to take steps to restore order, quote unquote, amid the blockades by truckers and others protesting the country's COVID-19 restrictions. These blockades are illegal, and if you are still participating, the time to go home is now, Trudeau told reporters after a virtual meeting with province leaders. Trudeau says the emergency order will be time-limited, geographically targeted, as well as reasonable and proportionate to the threats they are meant to address. Trudeau told reporters the government is not calling in the military. However, the Emergencies Act, which was passed in 1988, gives authorities more resources to restore order and respond to public emergencies, such as natural disasters and unlawful acts. I'm hoping the article actually gets to the meat and potatoes of it.
I got that meat and potato for you when you're ready.
Just, guys, at this point, Stocky, give us the meat and potatoes. The article's drawing it on and on and on. However, no, here it is right here. It says, earlier Monday, TD Bank froze about $1.1 million that was intended to back the protest. Multiple Canadian news outlets reported, saying the money was being held in 2 personal accounts. This is a part of the Emergencies Act. They just have the ability to freeze whatever accounts they want, whenever they want. So, Stocky, go ahead.
All right, so we talked about this in the past, and we talked about it on my show as well. We were following this when it originally happened, and we were following it because we noticed that it was kind of growing, but it was just kind of localized. And then there was $10 million that was donated to these guys in a GoFundMe account, and then the provincial government and the police got together and contacted GoFundMe and said, "Hey, you're basically giving up to a terrorist organization." In not so many words, I mean, they basically said it was not peaceful, it was a protest violation of GoFundMe. GoFundMe froze $10 million, and that's when you and I talked about that, and we said this is going to be the Streisand effect. This is going to create martyrs, and it's going to spread. And sure as shit, all those people felt like, oh, they're coming after us. Then it spread to the south side of the border, and so it blocked all the traffic. It blocked imports, export, and then I started focusing on Detroit and the cars. And sure as shit, the next day they started saying it. Now you got big money. This is big money. The auto industry is very big in lobbying, so now all of a sudden it's becoming more of this. But here's the thing. Here's what I'm going to say. Okay, I got my tinfoil hat on. Okay, let me tell you something right now. Okay. This is suppression of freedom of individuals to assemble. Now, let me tell you why I say this, okay? Justin Trudeau, a few months ago, about several months ago, was very, very outspoken in favor of the similar protests in India. Now, I focused on those because obviously my wife is from India, my in-laws live there, and there were hundreds of thousands of farmers that were protesting and locking down Delhi, the biggest company, and locking down the economy. Why? Because they were protesting for against regulations that were stopping them from doing what they wanted to do, and they protested and they locked it every down. And Trudeau was a huge supporter of that. He said that is what people should do, and they should do that and protest their government, and when they think something's wrong, and government should allow them, and yeah, it's going to hurt economies, but it's going to change lives, and it's going to be there. Now all of a sudden, he's got 1/100th of the amount of people blocking some borders, and this man goes out and for the first time in Canadian history invokes the Emergency Powers Act in order to freeze the bank accounts of anybody they deem as part of this protest. Now, who's part of it? Somebody throwing Molotov cocktails, or some guy out there with a flag? Whose account are you freezing? And this is the Patriot Act of the United States. And remember when we always say it's conspiracies and the government won't do that, and people always like, well, why do you need the right to bear arms? Well, to protect myself from the government. What are you going to do? The government's not going to come after you. And what are you going to do with your gun if they're flying drones? Well, first of all, that's not how it works. The government's not going to destroy its own infrastructure to get you. That's not how it works. And that's why Afghanistan won, because it's a guerrilla warfare. But forget all that aside, right? Everybody says it's all tinfoil hat and you're crazy, conspiracy. The government would never do this. Look at what the government's doing right now. In Canada, they are legitimately invoking an Emergency Power Act, which is only supposed to be there for like absolute like terrorist attacks that are going on, to freeze these people's accounts, to bleed them out, to drain them out, to arrest them for peaceful protesting, right? And so my question becomes, is this an overreach of government? I know it's not the United States, they don't have the same constitution we have, but remember, and I'm not making a one-for-one, apples for apples as far as what is leading to it, but when we had the protests for, civil rights or BLM last year, or we've had protests for the Vietnam War or anything like that, it just depends on what people like, what they don't, and what the politics are. Will they go after it, support it, or not? And so I'm going to be honest with you. This is that slippery slope theory. If you would have told me, if I would have told anybody 6 months ago that there would be an event of people protesting at the border over COVID vaccines and mandates and that the government would invoke the Emergency Act to shut down their money and put them in prison, you'd have called me crazy. But it's happening. It's happening. And the crazy thing is that right before he did this, the governments in Canada were actually giving in and saying, okay, we're gonna let the mandates go. And then out of nowhere, this happened.
The Ambassador Bridge, the busy border crossing that has been the centerpiece of the protest campaign,
I blacked out.
Reopened late Sunday after police cleared and arrested a lingering group of protesters demonstrating against COVID-19 vaccine mandates. But protests in other parts of the country are ongoing. Obviously there's a lot going on here. At the center of it, the core conflict is everything that Saki was just talking about. The idea that the government can just freeze your accounts just because they think that they don't like the way you're protesting, is pretty wild.
That throws everything away. And people have allowed themselves to do this because the Bill of Rights of the Constitution is not powers the government, or it is not rights the government gives you and freedoms the government gives you in the United States. It is to remind the government the shit they're not allowed to touch, right? And of course, there's always going to be people who say, well, there is a line. Like, you can't just carry a bazooka into a school, or you can't, yell fire in a theater. I get all that, and there are certain lines. But where do we allow it? And it reminds me of the old proverb or saying or whatever you want to do, and this happened in Germany with the Jewish people and false flags and other things like that, but not to get that far into it. But here's the thing. They said, they came for, I'll give you real world examples. They came for the drugs, and I said nothing. They banned guns, and I said nothing. They banned gay marriage or something. I said nothing. Then they banned whatever it is that you love, enjoy, or that you're into. And I called for help, but there was no one left to help. And the reason they say that is because you didn't stand up for when someone else's rights were being violated and make a stop. You just stood by because it didn't affect you. And so those people got theirs done. And then the next one didn't affect you. And now when it does come to you, there's no one left to stand up for you. So just because you don't agree with something, you can't just sit by and be like, oh, it doesn't affect me. So it's like with civil rights, right? Like, not to get too political here, but civil rights didn't actually become a thing until other people started standing up and saying, hey, listen, this doesn't affect me individually, but I have to stand up for people, or I have to do this because even though this doesn't affect me, or I may not believe in it, if I don't stand with these people for their rights, who's going to stand with me when my rights are violated? And that's where it's at. And I'm not saying that. I know that there's a lot more. I'm broad stroking it, but it's always the slippery slope argument that concerns me.
So obviously there's so much more to this story. And if you guys are interested in what's going on up in Canada, do your own research, obviously do a deep dive. But like, if at the core of it, like, these people are standing in the street, because obviously we've talked about that before. No one likes anybody that's just blocking traffic, right?
Anybody who's here listening in Ottawa, they fucking want these people to die because they've been honking horns and blocking traffic for 17 days. I get that.
My question is, why can't you just arrest someone that's blocking traffic? Why do you have to go to this whole extent for the Emergencies Act and freeze bank accounts?
Oh, then you're going to have a real big problem, because if you arrest these guys protesting for vaccines, even though you think they're dumb, which is kind of changing now, but you think they're dumb and you arrest them for blocking traffic, then you have to hear, well, why didn't you block traffic when people were protesting for George Floyd?
No, 100%.
You see what I'm saying? You can't
very
pick and choose.
My just whole thing is, it should be illegal to stand on an interstate.
It is in Florida. Ron DeSantis, for as dumb as he is, or as much as you like him, the man basically wrote a law that says, hey, listen, if you're protesting in a street and you come up on a car, or you block somebody or try to attack their car, or they're in the, and they're trying to get to a hospital emergency, they can run your ass over. And I don't like that. That's another slippery slope on the opposite end of the spectrum. Yeah. But at the same time, they're like, fuck it. Listen, you want to come and tell me that I can't come through because you're protesting, but I need to get to my kids? I'm going to run your ass over.
I just think that's at the core. It should be illegal to stand and try to obstruct traffic on an interstate. That should be an illegal thing.
Let me play devil's advocate. If you do that, then now you get what's been happening over the past 20 years, where you get free speech zones, designated protesting zones. That literally takes away the idea of protesting, because the idea of protesting is to cause disruption, to cause a change, to get your voice heard. If you just got a bunch of people sitting in a little fenced off area on the other side of town and they're just screaming at trees, nobody gives a shit, right? And that's not the point of protesting. So what do you do here?
Do it
what
on
do you
a sidewalk.
do here?
Do it on a sidewalk, man. Do it on a sidewalk. You're doing it in
Yeah,
a
the people
street.
do it on the sidewalk, but then what happens when people want to
People
bike?
go into labor, you know what I mean? People have emergencies.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm not disagreeing.
And the road system is a public space that's used for massive amounts of utility. And
that is why you allow people to protest, but you allow people to continue to travel freely. How that happens, that's not my problem.
I
think
arresting the person.
Both people should be okay. You want to stand in the street and protest, you're welcome to. And if you're driving and there's a protester in your way and you got to get somewhere, you don't have to stop. And we'll see who wins.
If someone was driving their wife to the hospital because they were in labor and they were about to have a baby,
you run them the fuck over. That's what you do.
And they couldn't get past because of this. To me,
you run them over.
To me, that's fundamentally incorrect. And those people in the street need to be realizing what they're doing. And if they can't realize it, that's where it should be of the governmental right to, or of the local jurisdiction to arrest those people, because it's wildly more important that baby is delivered safely than their protest being heard in that moment. They can take
understood, but how do you like what do you do? Do you go to the scene and see somebody run over dead and you say, okay, let's find out who did this? Where were you going? And if he was on his way back from a bar, then you arrest him. If he was on the way to the hospiol, all right, you're cool. The other guy's there. You know, I think
that's why you take the broad stroke and just say you're not just gonna inconvenience someone who's trying to get home from work so he can watch like Jeopardy or something like that. You're gonna actually cause some problems for people out there that are in those situations, like their wife going into labor.
I just had this weird idea. What if you and your buddies get drones, and the next time somebody's like, there's a big street protest, you stand like a couple blocks down and fly drones over them like 300 feet up and just drop like balloons or like glitter or glue or something on them?
Oh my God,
how much fun would that be?
Or like just like Nickelodeon slime or something like that,
or like vomit from some bulimic neighbor you have.
Ugh. Dark. You got dark quick there.
I don't know where else you get a lot of vomit from.
You got to darkness real quick there. Almost.
I don't know where else you get vomit from. I'm just saying.
The mayor in Ohio got to prostitution.
All I can say is if you have a large group of people out in a hot area, large group, and they're covered in stuff and they smell horrible, it's probably Coachella.
It is probably Coachella. It is.
Speaking of mask mandates, we're skipping over a story and we're going to come back to it. But the mask mandate thing that we're talking about is awesome to lead into Coachella for a couple reasons. Number one thing I've been paying attention to is, for the first time, blue states in the United States, liberal, left-leaning, whatever
Democratic
you want to call
states,
are now lifting. Well, I don't want to call it democratic, because democratic is the idea that you have votes, a majority to win, and they're not. That's not how it is. When we're not a democracy, we're a constitutional republic. But I'm not going to go on a rant.
You're talking about the party, the Democratic Party.
But you call them.
If they were blue
you
because they
can't
voted
call them
for
liberals
Biden
anymore, because
or whatever.
then liberals are like, well, that's an insult to liberals, and then radicals, and then there's moderates, whatever. So here's the thing: these states are now lifting mask mandates as well, especially in schools. And California, we talked about, I think last week, California has legitimately, gone as well. So you've got a lot of people around the world that are kind of like, all right, I guess Amazon announced today that they're going to stop requiring masks for vaccinated people as well. And now you've got Coachella. Lead us into it.
Guys, according to this article on NewYorkTimes.com, Coachella plans to return with no masks or vaccines required, which is actually a wild headline considering where we were a year ago. Where we were a year ago, man, here in St. Louis, the entire St. Louis County, you actually couldn't go out to eat. Restaurants weren't allowed to be open. Forget vaccine mandate or mask mandate. They weren't allowed to operate. They could do takeout, but they were doing, 3% or 4% of their standard operating business. They were completely bleeding. You know what I mean? All of these local businesses here in St. Louis and St. Louis County were shut down, not even able to operate. And here we are a year later with this headline about Coachella, which, to your point about Democratic or blue or left-leaning states, this is in California, man. This is in California with some of the strictest mask mandates, vaccine mandates. So they were one of the last to reopen when the pandemic was shutting economies down. So Coachella plans to return with no masks or vaccine mandates. It says when Coachella, the outdoor musical festival returns for the first time in 2 years this April, performers will be greeted by a sea of unmasked and potentially unvaccinated fans as the struggling concert industry stirs back to life. Organizers said on Tuesday that attendees would not be required to wear masks or be vaccinated or tested for the coronavirus at Coachella, which drew up to 125,000 fans a day to Southern California and was one of the biggest music festivals of the pre-pandemic era. Says there's no guarantee, express or implied, that those attending the festival will not be exposed to COVID-19. Golden Voice, a division of the global concert giant AEG Live, said on the Coachella website. Golden Voice noted, however, that the festival's COVID policies may change in accordance with applicable public health conditions. So obviously, guys, so goes, the sort of societal norms with COVID. So goes Coachella. So we're kind of in this world right now where it feels like by the summer, we talked about this on the last episode, guys, sort of feels like by the summer, a lot of these mask mandates are going to be lifted.
Fatigue is here. I mean, we're officially in year 3 now of lockdowns in the United States. Yeah, this is officially year 3.
And it's 2022. We're talking about COVID-19, and I'm not expressing any sort of satisfaction or dissatisfaction with this. I just play by the rules. If I'm on a plane, I wear a mask. You know what I mean? Wherever you go, you just gotta, you play by the rules. Wherever, I've always felt that way with traffic too. Like I'll go like as fast as the traffic is going. If people are generally going slower, I don't want to be the guy that's buzzing by everybody and potentially driving recklessly. I'll go with the speed of traffic. But if everybody's going about 10, 15 miles over, if that's the entire wave of traffic, I'm right there with them. I'm just going with the speed of traffic.
I told my wife, and we've talked about this, every time there's a new variant or every time there's something, my wife freaks out. And every time she's just about to get ready to go back into the world because we're vaccinated and everything, she gets freaked out again. And then I told her, I said, I'm not that guy who's going to be like, well, the flu is the same thing as this. But here's the thing about the flu. The flu still kills 60 to 100,000 people every year. Some people get vaccinated. A lot of people don't. I haven't had my flu vaccine in 20 years. Some people get vaccinated. Some people don't. And, it is what it is, right? And we've just kind of go, like, you don't worry that, and I'm not saying that COVID and the flu are the same because I know there's going to be somebody out there like, well, it's technically 100% higher death rate. Yes, 1% to 2%. Okay, I get that. But here's what I'm getting at is that this will become a normalized thing. We are just going to become normalized with it, and it's going to be over. And I don't know if a lot of this was used for control or a lot of this was used for panic or for what, or if it was legitimately we caring about people. I don't know, but this is just what we're going to be faced with. It's just going to be, another thing that we have, like the flu, right?
We're entering a season of uncertainty when it comes to vaccinations and masks, it seems. At least.
Yeah, but have you ever seen a picture of Coachella? Even before COVID, I wouldn't have gone to that place without a mask on.
I'm never going to Coachella, first off. I'll never be there. Never
imagine
once.
Going to something like Coachella, Ultra, or Burning Man. Like that is just the dumbest shit ever. Like, I get wanting to listen to good music, but going out to one of these places for that, like, every guy goes there because they think they're going to get laid, and every girl goes there because they think they're going to get free fucking drugs. That's it. That's the only reason these people go there. I don't know about the girl thing,
but I can tell you the guy thing, if you're like 21, 22, 23-year-old guy and you're single, you're like, hey, it's the same reason why you go out to a bar. You're like, maybe I'm going to meet someone. Maybe I'm going to go hang out and meet someone. That's why everyone's there.
That's not why I go to bars. I usually go to drown my sorrows and cry into the bottom of my watered down.
We're getting to the dark. You're just jumping.
It was scotch and ice, and now it's just tears and ice.
Jump into the dark.
The light comes on.
But I mean, listen,
hey, that's
again,
what it is.
Again, tangents aside, what I mean by uncertainty, it at least feels like a season of skepticism around some of the masks and vaccines. So here we are.
How do you think security is going to be at that place now?
At Coachella?
Yeah, like a lot of these places, like what's security like after the Travis Scott thing, after the COVID thing? What do you think security is going to be like? That's my biggest concern.
Honestly, the concert, it talks about the alien concert industry.
I just hope that those security guards don't get bored.
Is that what you want to jump to? Because I real quick was going to say, guys, in addition to Coachella, we're in a situation with the NBA commissioner, Adam Silver. Also expressing some what appears to be skepticism about the COVID-19 vaccination rules in New York City. He comes out, guys, according to this article on ESPN, the NBA commissioner said the New York City vaccination mandate preventing Brooklyn Nets guard Kyrie Irving from playing in home games doesn't quite make sense to me. He said on Wednesday morning on an ESPN morning show, said as a player unvaccinated against COVID-19, Irving isn't allowed to play at the Barclays Center, which is where the Brooklyn Nets play in Brooklyn, because of the mandate. However, a player from a different market who is unvaccinated may play in New York City. You know, so there's like a double standard here. It says this law in New York, the oddity of it to me is that it only applies to home players, Adam Silver said. I think if ultimately that rule is about protecting people who are in the arena, it just doesn't quite make sense to me that an away player who is unvaccinated can play in Barclays, but the home player can't. To me, that's a reason they should take a look at that ordinance. It is February 2022. Anybody that pays attention to sports news knows that Kyrie hasn't been playing all year. He hasn't been playing forever. He's one of the most openly outspoken against the vaccines in the sports
Those brothers whose dad was trying to like sell them to the media.
I have no idea anything about that. But
those guys were balls. Never mind.
Oh yeah, Lonzo Ball.
I don't watch NBA, so I have no idea.
Be that as it may, it is February of 2022. The NBA commissioner is just now saying that doesn't make any sense. It's been like 2 years. It's like really like a year and a half with these.
Nobody is going to give a shit until they get a lot of media attention. That is when things change. Back to the protest things, right? Like it's either going to make you or break you. Media attention is the only way. That is why I made it official today on my stream that we are going to be the first community of people to recognize Somaliland as an actual country. Now, I know this isn't part of the show, but just so you were aware, I didn't even know about this until like last week. Did you know that Somalia is broken up into 2 different states? You have Somalia, which is like the anarchy, corruption, piracy, and everything like that. And then another part of Somalia, which broke away a few years ago and became Somaliland. And they are democratically elected. They have elections. They have peace. They have stability. They have like income. They're like a whole other country. But the world refuses to recognize them. And every time they ask for help from the international community, because they don't recognize them, sends it to Somalia because they say they're part of them, and then they never get the money. And so this poor country who's just trying to like not be part of this war path is there, but nobody acknowledges them. So that's right here on my stream. I did it official, and this is the first official time I'm doing it on the podcast. I and my community now recognize Somaliland as a country, and our goal is to get them recognized by somebody else, even if it's just a fucking small country like Malta. Someone is going to recognize them. I'm going to get a flag. Moving on. I don't know where that came from.
That is the most. I have no idea where that came from.
I don't either, but somebody asked you on stream today, how do you deal with my ADHD?
Then I just deferred to, I don't really have to deal with your ADHD. We just have a fun time bantering and talking. It's Mrs. TSG. I'd really wonder.
Oh, Mrs. TSG loves it half the time. All right. So real quick, back to what I was trying to transition into, hoping that the security guard does not get bored. The reason I brought that up is one of my favorite stories of the week is this story. And we had to get to it before this is over because I have to talk about it.
So guys, according to theguardian.com, Russian painting vandalized by a bored gallery guard who drew eyes on it.
On his first day.
He didn't look at that. Saying that it drew eyes on it is not like it's not trying to like be poetic and saying that like he gazed upon it. He drew eyes on it, like an actual
$1 million painting.
So this
of three shapes of people without facial features. He got bored, took a ballpoint pen, and drew eyes on them.
So Anna Leporskaya's 3 figures sent for restoration after guard doodled on it with a ballpoint pen on his first day. This is the image for those that are watching on YouTube. You can see it right here. There's the eyes. A valuable avant-garde painting has been vandalized by a bored security guard who drew eyes on faceless figures in the artwork on his first day working in a Russian gallery. His first day. Anna Leporskaya's 3 figures was painted between 1932 and 1934 and had been insured for 75 million rubles. That's $1.4 million or 740,000 pounds. It was on display as part of an abstract art exhibition at the Boris Yeltsin Presidential Center in I'm going to butcher this, Ekaterinburg, when the guard drew eyes on it using a ballpoint pen. Alexander Drozdov, the executive director of the Yeltsin Center, did not identify the security guard in a statement, but said he worked for a private security company and had been fired. The exhibition's curator, Anna Reshetkina, said the painting was vandalized with the Yeltsin Center branded pen. His motives are still unknown, but the administration believes it was some kind of a lapse in sanity. I don't know.
This is my favorite tinfoil hat rant or whatever that I've had in a long time. I want you to hear me out on this one, okay? Real quick. Do you know what Monkey Jesus is?
I've never heard of Monkey Jesus.
Okay. There was a painting in a small town in Portugal or Spain of Jesus, right? It was an old painting and it was falling apart and it was getting bad. So a woman who worked there thought, hey, I am going to restore it, right? It's an unknown painting. No one ever heard of it. It's just in a small little Catholic ministry building or some little church or whatever. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to restore it myself. No classical training, no nothing. She started doing it, never finished it, but then people came back and saw it. I'm going to send you a picture of the original and what it looks like now.
Oh my God.
It is fucking hilarious. It has now become one of the most famous paintings in the world because of this. The amount of media attention that it got made it one of the most famous paintings of all time. And it made that city. Yes, that's the original, and that's what it looks like now. It is hilarious. But because of this, she was destroyed. She was so sad about it happening. But it became worth so much money and such an international hype about it that it brought so much money in tourism to come see it to the town. This unknown random painting became such an international sensation that it's actually made so much money in tourism and dollars that the church has expanded. They've built an orphanage. They've built a city. They've become merchandise about it. It's become that. I think, hear me out. Because there is no other way. I thought about this way too much over the past week. I was trying to think of any scenario where a security guard on his first day at a art museum would be bored and grab a ballpoint pen and go up to $1 million painting and draw eyes on it. It doesn't make sense. There's not a single scenario that would make sense to that. There's no motive behind that. But what if this person took out a $1.5 million insurance plan on it, talked to this guy behind the scenes and said, listen, you're going to get fired, whatever, but you'll get famous and we'll pay you a lot of money once we get the insurance payout. And either A, we make a lot of money from the insurance payout, or B, the immediate attention becomes so big that it becomes the next Monkey Jesus.
So you think there's
I think this was intentional.
I actually don't think that's that big of a reach because, I mean, like, listen.
I think it was intentional. There's no other way I can think about this.
This may be insensitive, but like, who cares about a painting? You know what I mean? Like, it's just a painting. Like in the grand scheme of our entire world, of everything we've talked about with Russia, Ukraine, Canada, freezing bank, who cares about a painting? The stakes are actually pretty damn low for them to take a risk like this and get this thing into the media. I actually think it looks better with these eyes. I like these eyes that were drawn on. It looks pretty
it looks more normal. Like if you saw it without it versus the one with the eyes, you would look at the one without eyes as more of an artistic approach, right? But now that you've heard about it, now that it's all over the media, now the not only can they collect on the insurance if they want, but now the value of the painting has gone up 1,000 times because everybody wants to hear about it. Everyone wants to know about it. And once again, it goes back to security guard. Day one on the job, which usually everyone's on their best behavior, they're working, they're really good at it. Day one, and you decide to grab a pen and draw on $1 million painting, I can't come to a conclusion as to why that would make sense. Like, it doesn't make sense, especially if you're day one. Now, if you're an old dude who's been there for 40 years and you got bored and fell asleep, fine. But day one, no. This is all of the perfect hallmarks of we're going to get you hired, we're going to pay you off the books, you're going to get fired, but you're not going to go to jail because we'd have to press charges against you. So you're not going to get jails. You're going to pick up a minimum wage job, work one day, and you're going to get fired. You don't even have to show it on your resume because there's no gap in your employment history. So you don't have to worry about jobs in the future, and we're going to give you $10,000 to do it.
Yeah, probably more than 10,000, honestly.
I doubt it, because somebody that works as a security guard, $10,000 is a lot of money, and be quiet. Here's an NDA, don't say anything, and plausible deniability. We're not going to even write a contract. We're just telling you.
Honestly, I would even go as far as to say that's probably not even. That shouldn't even be a conspiracy theory. That should be the.
But nobody else has put those together. Maybe I spent way too much time on this.
That's because nobody. That's the thing, man. No one's gonna think about this because it's a painting. Like. Yeah,
but it's genius. It's genius.
That's exactly right, because you can take
this is Monkey Jesus
because of
2.0.
how many people, because the real value in art is that's where rich people kind of keep their money, and they can keep it there, and they can hide it there, and they can
tax
trade
evasion.
Exactly,
that's the real reason.
You can hide it there, whatever. And because the stakes are so low, it's a painting.
I'm invested in art now.
No one thinks that. No one's gonna think of it. You know what I mean? If you're hiding your money in a painting, who cares? It's a painting. It's like, it might as well just be like a book, a page out of the dictionary. Like, who cares?
Listen, if you ever, you're rich, you probably already know this, but if you can go and get a painting done and then have a friend of yours or a couple friend of yours in the art world appraise it at a very high expensive rate, you spend $1,000 getting it done, have them appraise it at $50,000 and then donate it to charity, you now get a $50,000 write-off that costs you $1,000.
The only people in the world that would care that this happened is the insurance company. That's it. So
the cartels.
It's going to be up to the insurance company and their and in their investigation to figure out how it gets done. I don't know if we got time to get to the. We're over an hour. We're north of an hour, guys. Saki wants to get to an article talking about how the avocado.
Here's the thing.
Hold on.
We
Here's the
can't
headline.
get to it.
Here's the headline. We'll get to it next week. How the avocado
No, we
became
won't.
a key to Mexican drug cartel turf war. The avocado. The avocado.
Well, we'll get
Guacamole.
to that next week, just like all the ones we never got to again, and the wine thing or whatever. But I have to touch on the ATF tweet. I have to. It's Valentine's Day was 2 days ago. We have to talk about this. This is fucking great.
Guys, according to an article on thehill.com.
This isn't an article. This was a tweet from the ATF.
So the ATF urges people, yes, but what I have pulled up is an article at thehill.com. The ATF urges people to give exes a Valentine's Day surprise by turning them in. Where is the tweet? You actually didn't even send me the tweet. I have this article. It says in a tweet, the ATF urged people to share information on their former or current partners if they are involved in illegal gun activity. It says Valentine's Day can still be fun even if you broke up. Guys, this is the actual language of the tweet. It says Valentine's Day can still be fun even if you broke up. Do you have information about a former or current partner involved in illegal gun activity? Let us know and we will make sure it's a Valentine's Day to remember. Some online commentators have urged the ATF to reconsider the tweet, saying it encourages people to swat their exes and could lead to false reporting. The Nash County Sheriff's Office.
The tweet.
You did send me the tweet?
With the picture and everything.
So the Nash County Sheriff offices. Hold on, let me go back to the.
All right, well, let's not get too far. We don't have time. This is all I want to say about this. First of all, it's fucking hilarious. Second of all, it's horrible. Because here's the thing: you're telling your ex. Or you're telling these, especially for women, you're basically saying, hey, listen, do you have a guy who broke your heart and cheated on you? Did he own a gun, legal or illegally? Doesn't matter. Turn his ass in. Get that motherfucker, right? And so yeah, you might get a few people to do it, but how many false reports are going to happen? How many swatting is going to happen? How much is that going to happen? But more importantly, it's not about your ex. This is some shit that I'm worried about. As someone who dated a Latin woman, okay, I can tell you that this probably happened to a lot of my boys out there, and you know, in the past. And I don't know about anybody else out here. But let me tell you something. She's not here. But let me tell you something right now, okay? Let me tell you something right now. I'm just imagining some dude working and having a tough day and forgetting it's Valentine's Day and coming home, and he comes home and his girl is like, "Hi, papi, how you doing?" He's like, "I had a long day." You forget something? Like, forget what? Okay. And then calling up the ATF and being like, this motherfucker has a gun. And because she didn't get flowers on Valentine's Day, like how pissed off have you? Hell hath no fury like that of a woman scorned. How many men forgot their shit and instead of just not getting sex are now in prison or in jail because their wife was like, oh, he gonna be out tomorrow, but tonight he gonna be in jail. He got a gun, you know, like, I mean, that's just how it goes. Like, I'm just expecting this to happen. This was a terrible idea, ATF. You are probably responsible for a lot of people going to jail on Valentine's Day because they forgot flowers. Hopefully you picked up a couple people that are illegally holding guns, which is another conversation. But this ain't the way to do it. You're an idiot. Sorry, that wasn't my rant of the day, but I just had to say it.
This is not Stocky's rant of the day. This is just a tweet that went out, guys.
You fucking love it. Shut up. Stop acting like you're like, oh, I don't know what to do. I just you love all this. Be quiet.
I didn't act like that at all, bro. I think it's hilarious.
Yes, my rant is going to be much more controversial than
what
this.
I'm saying is this just isn't Stocky. It's not Stocky's rant. This is a real thing. Stocky's rants are rooted in his imagination, manifested into reality, and I love them. Most people love them. This ATF thing is it's a tweet that happened. So go ahead, Stocky. Guys, we're rounding up.
Ask Mel what she thinks about this.
About this right here.
Are you a gun owner?
I don't own any guns. I've never held a gun. I've never shot a gun.
What the?
Never.
Are you just don't have interest? Are you afraid of them? Are you anti-gun?
Listen, it's just never dawned on me.
America?
It's just never dawned on me. I have never once thought to go hold a gun, shoot a gun, buy a gun. Never once.
You live in like Gun Belt USA.
I can't explain it, man. I can't explain it.
I'm not going to be that guy who tries to convince you because I've learned in my life you just let people do their thing.
I got no problem with people owning guns. I'm pro gun.
I have a desk gun.
Listen,
I have a 40 cal desk gun sitting here, so I'm okay with guns.
listen, I'm pro, gun. I'm not anti-gun.
Opinion. Listen, it's fine. Someone breaks into your house, they can do what they want with you until they're done, because whatever, police will get there in 22 minutes. It's none of my business. Just make sure you're here for the podcast, okay? All right. Is that all the stories we're getting to today, right?
That's it, guys. Stocky's rant. Let's go.
All right. Stocky's Random Rant, the SRR of the week. Let me tell you little shit something, okay? There is no proper or improper way for the toilet roll to be placed on the spinner, okay? I don't care. I get it. I have it on the over because it's not a hill worth dying on in my marriage, and my wife thinks that that's appropriate for some reason. But let me tell you little shits who have been completely brainwashed to think that the toilet paper has to go over. The patent even shows it on the over. No, don't make me bust out the fox. Let me tell you something. Having it under is actually more economical, and it's actually a better option. And I'll tell you why. If you own pets, if it's over, they can just spool that roll out. Guess what? It gets on the floor, it's ruined. Now you're out money. Number two, what if you take a roll of toilet paper, you're wiping, your finger goes through, right? And you got a little something on your finger. Now when you go to grab the next roll, because you're grabbing on the top, you might smear it and get through. And now the next 2 layers are covered in shit. You can't use that. You've lost it. Number three, okay, you can't control how much you're pulling out without having to use, either your hand or your other hand to tear it off. Now, the benefits on the under, have a pet, nothing happens. Number two, you're grabbing from underneath and not above. Don't have to worry about getting anything on there. And number three, you have a natural barrier to tear off exactly how much you need, and you don't overdo it. And for those of you weirdos out there gonna be like, hey, you're weird, just get a bidet. I'm never gonna use a fucking bidet again. If you wonder why, I have a video on my Twitch channel that I took a highlight of. Go under there. It says Stocky uses a bidet. I was violated. I was fucking violated by a bidet, and I will never ever touch a bidet again. So you can do what you want with your toilet paper, but don't fucking tell me I'm a monster because I had the toilet paper on the under. If anything, I'm smarter than you.
I don't get 1 and 2. I don't understand your 1 and 2. I understand 3. But 1 and 2, I don't quite understand. Smearing,
what do you mean 1 and 2?
One of your points, 1 and 2, I don't understand. First off, I've had pets. Never once have they pawed at the toilet paper. Maybe I'm lucky. Number two, I've never been in a situation where I've smeared anything on anything.
First ever whiteboard on this. I'm gonna do it. I have to do it.
I number 3 though, I understand tearing.
Okay. All right.
Go ahead. For those that are listening, Stocky's now drawing a diagram with his whiteboard.
Real quick. Toilet paper over, toilet paper under. Okay? Your animal goes up here, if you've ever owned a cat, and starts pulling on it, guess what? There's nothing to stop it from spooling out. They do it here, it flaps over, right? Nothing there. It saves your ass. If you've ever owned a cat, you'll know. That's number 1. Number 2, okay? You wipe your butt. Here's your hand, okay? You wipe your butt, and you got a little something on the hand because it went through, because you're cheap and you got single ply, or there's a toilet paper shortage and there's only single ply. So now you go to grab more toilet paper. Well, because you have to grab this from the top, if you touch anywhere but here, guess what? Now it's wet and it's getting into that, right? You got shit, you got piss, whatever. Here, you're grabbing from under and you're getting a single piece, and no matter what happens, you don't get it. And number 3 is the most important. If you are pulling from the top, you have to yank or hold it to get it cleared off where you want. From here, there's a natural barrier between gravity and air resistance that you just tear right off, and then you got exactly the spot.
So guys, I said, I understand number 3 the most. Number 1 seems like I have never seen that in my life. And number 2, also,
you can do what you want, just don't try to tell me I'm a monster. That's all I'm saying.
This is just simply my response to you of what I think makes sense. Number 3 is a very good point. I like number 3 a lot. The under, listen, I always say life's too short to bet the under, but in this situation, maybe go under on your toilet paper. I don't know. Guys, last segment.
Going under.
No,
not doing it. No.
Guys, last segment of the day, Stocky's ancient text messages. For those that don't know,
I'm scrolling.
For those that don't know, Stocky has over 500 missed text messages dating back to 2017. Okay. The end of every single show, we go to the last one. Last week, we realized that Stocky forgot to text his grandma back around Christmas of 2017.
Apparently it's an old number, so it's okay.
So Stocky did not text his grandma back. She texted something about, Merry Christmas, I love you, or are you going to be here for this dinner or something like that? And Stocky didn't respond. Left her on red. Actually, didn't even leave her on red. Didn't even open the damn text. It was 5 years ago, 4.5 years ago. What do you got for us?
This one is from May 15th, 2018. So we've moved up from 2017 to 2018. I was the resort manager at a large hotel resort. My front desk supervisor, apparently at 6:17 a.m., texted me and said, "Sorry to text so early, but we had a call out. If you can come in, let me know."
All right, so just a missed work thing. Makes you kind of.
Well, no, that's bad because who covered?
That's what I mean. It's a missed work thing. At least in this situation, you're not offending grandma. You know what I mean? But
she was my supervisor. What if? How did I not see this?
There's 500 more where that came from. Because you're gonna be asking that question a lot.
17 a.m. I would have.
You're gonna be asking that question a lot. Listen, man, they probably made it through short staff that day, and maybe some people,
she's doing these days.
Are you gonna text her?
No.
Guys,
no, she was legit, like or an asshole, whatever. If it was a guy, she just straight up was like she was just not a pleasant person.
Guys, thank you all for being here. This was episode 14 of the Stock Guy and Alex Show, the podcast that covers topics around the world, business, news, markets, money, sports. People are talking about it, then Stocky and I are talking about it. Watch and listen on YouTube and on Spotify. Follow the show on Twitter, Insta, LinkedIn, TikTok, all the other major socials, guys. We'll be back next week. Stocky, any final thoughts or words for our friends?
No, but I just got a Twitter notification. I never look at my Twitter, but it says Shailene Woody and Aaron Rodgers have reportedly split. So
he's not going to Denver.
That
means he's not going to Denver because she lives in Denver. I thought they were engaged, and everybody said, "Oh, he's going to be a Bronco. He's going to leave Green Bay. He wants to be with his fiance."
Have you ever noticed that you probably pay too much attention to sports?
The football? Yes. What do you mean? Have I ever noticed that? I know that about myself. I love.
Excuse me. Last thing I want to say is that apparently another thing is going on, that there's a TikTok video from a self-described quote unquote water snob, Ryan Dubs, who says he spends over $2,000 per month on Norwegian bottled water brand Voss. Ooh, we need to talk about water.
$2,000?
That's a tinfoil hat discussion.
What, bottled water?
Oh, it's you pretty soon you're not going to have access to water because private companies are buying it up.
Come hang out next week. We're going to talk about bottled water, I guess. We'll talk about hopefully a bunch more that's going on in the world, guys. I'll keep you up to date on everything. We got to make sure that we get to the avocado, how the avocado became the key to the Mexican drug cartel's turf war. That we have to cover next week. Guys, thank you all for being here. Saki, final thoughts?
Final thoughts? No, I just hope I don't have an aneurysm.
See you guys next week.
Palantir to the moon.
You need to take care of yourself. Sleep well. Get good sleep, get good rest.
Ay, qué rico, papi.